Greetings, thanks for joining us today. As you can see over my shoulder, we're at the Shrine of the Immaculate Conception next door to Catholic University in Washington, D.C. Today's topic focuses on the fact that news has come out regarding the fact that production is beginning at the gigafactory at Tesla in Shanghai, and we think this is totally awesome news and chose to jump in for a short show to review some details of this and the newest acquisition of startups by Tesla. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. Please also note we appreciate those of you who've chosen to subscribe, and also have a lot of appreciation for our Patreon supporters, both of which really make a difference in the success of the channel and its growth. So we did do a show yesterday, and then some big news came out, which is that it's been announced that Tesla is now seceding, as of the 13th of October, will no longer be producing the cheapest version of the Model 3 in the United States. That production will begin in the Shanghai factory in China, and we're guessing someplace around the 20th or 25th of October, but test runs on small numbers of vehicles have already begun, so now it's just a matter of increasing it to scale volume. So we think this is huge news for a number of reasons. First of all, it's kind of strange what's going on here, because Tesla has a habit of introducing the most expensive model of the Model 3 in all of its foreign sort of locations first, and then letting people buy the most expensive version and then systematically stepping down to the cheapest. So it seemed a little bit strange that in this case Tesla elected to start out with production on the bottom end, because there's a lot more profit margin in the most expensive vehicle, and therefore good reason to offer a large number of those to begin with. But for some reason Tesla has chosen to come out at the bottom of the range rather than at the top and get the additional profit. We're eager to see Tesla actually deliver on Elon's comment, which was that they can achieve 50% margins. Our guess as to why the vehicle chosen is the bottom end is that this vehicle represents the least stretch of the supply chain. So as you're getting motors in, as you're getting the supply chain worked out, it's easier to produce the cheapest vehicle because it has the fewest moving parts, therefore least stressful to a building up supply chain. The other reason is that the margins are actually pretty good, even though it's the low end of the line. So not only do you have reduced stress on a supply chain, but supposedly you have 50% gross margins coming out of there. So the profit margins are great enough to make it an attractive thing to do. So we're saying hats off to the Chinese and Tesla for getting this plant built so quickly. Side by side to this, Tesla just announced that they've registered with $1 million their own construction company. And so this is kind of an interesting note as well, because basically the Chinese state government, the local government, they kind of own their own construction firm, and that's who put this current facility up. So we found it kind of interesting that Tesla chose to register its own firm, and that's kind of interesting because when you roll with a domestic partner, your designated construction firm, they can get things done very rapidly, as we've seen with this new plant. So this is awesome. My camera's reminding us that we're battery low, so this is a 10-minute, 12-minute show rather than our usual length. So please be warned on that front. So at any rate, there are some interesting questions here, which is, China represents 15% of all Tesla vehicles ever sold. So if we look at the numbers, Model 3 is obviously ramping up and becoming the largest portion of what's sold there. And then if we look at the lowest line model, tends to be about 60% of the sales. So, if we look at 100,000 cars produced this quarter, 15% of which, or 15,000, would go to China. And then you got to split that between Model X and S versus Model 3s that might have gone there. And then you're sort of boiling it down. The suggestion then is, for giggles, let's say 7% or 7,000 vehicles on the quarter would normally go to Tesla in this place. Another sort of caveat, footnote, data point is that we have our hand analysis of what's being put together out of the tent is about 128 cars a day currently. So if we assume that a fully equipped factory can do as many cars as a hand put together facility, we're now looking at 128 producing 2 shifts at 7 days. So let's skip the 28 and just call it 700 vehicles a week times 2 shifts of 1,400 vehicles per week being produced times 4 weeks. So we're talking 5,000 cars being produced at a minimum. So this is assuming that you didn't have any automation and you just rolled in all the components and put the cars together by hand. That's the number. As you've seen in the spy video, there is a bunch of automation there, and that automation is being used to get cars out. So Tesla has claimed something like 3,000 vehicles. We think that, the number is going to be much higher. Most of the analysts have come in at a 6,000 a month production number for this facility, and our assessment is that's way low. We're going to be finding out here as earnings are announced by Tesla what the real production numbers are, but I think it's terrific, and the reason it's terrific is that we now have production being shipped to China closer to the consumer. Tesla's gaining more market share there. That's great. We now have room at the current facility to either increase the Model 3 production or to start producing new products like the truck, like the Roadster, and other things with the space that's no longer needed. So one argument you could make is the more cars produced in China, the more space there is for new products. The only exception to this is what's going on with batteries. We've been going on long enough that we know battery production has increased out of the main factory and therefore can produce. But there's a discussion of, has Tesla decided to secure a local battery partner so it does not have to use what's coming out of the gigafactory, and those batteries, the 2170s produced in Nevada, can now go to other production. And all these are questions that are lurking out there, but we can definitely see that a year from now, this factory should be full blown out production, especially if it can get the batteries it needs. And if that's the case, the exciting part is it should double the amount of revenue Tesla is bringing in quarterly in that, as that ramping up phase goes. And we believe that the answer to that is going to be sooner than later, but it's nonetheless exciting news, and we're covering it. It was interesting because Reuters actually has a piece where there's a discussion with a confidential source at Tesla about what's going on, and the person who introduced the conversation had all these what ifs, and most of them focused on, well, if the supply chain works properly, if items arrive on time, if there aren't other factory holdups, all these are variables in terms of how fast the factory gets going. Hey, as long as they've stopped U.S. production of those cars going to China, I think it's an exciting circumstance, and we're looking forward to further details, but there's heavy upside. One of the other things that I was reluctant to discuss, but I kind of expected it, was that the more stable the company gets, the more bored Elon gets, and therefore we have an acquisition. So what just happened in that vein is it was announced that Tesla just acquired a new startup focused on the vision of the vehicles, And so hopefully the dollar amount wasn't that huge, so it really doesn't, the impression is that the number wasn't that huge, which is good because the company is tight on cash. They still can use stock for acquisitions, but I would say congratulations on the acquisition. There's some interesting news that we sort of deduced, that I think you might also want to be aware of here, and that is that there's an interesting sort of issue of the fact that the version 10 has all these summon your car features that have been added. Very good news. One of the issues that's come up, though, is those cars all having these minor accidents in the process of being used beyond the scope of what was supposed to happen. And so this is kind of interesting news, because if we are anticipating robo delivery vehicles fairly soon, having accidents when you can't navigate a parking lot without hitting other vehicles, etc., suggests why it is that Tesla is acquiring entities in order to be more competitive in the space. So, we're going to make this a very brief show today. As I said, wanted to get this news out. I look forward to you guys' comments. The company is growing and successfully doing so. Don't forget your Tesla hat on Amazon. It obstructs my view and the sunlight to me, so that's why I don't wear it during the show, but it is a cool hat worth the effort. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Don't forget to don't forget 25 leg lifts, which I did this morning on each leg to strengthen the quad muscles so you don't have knee issues. Also wanted to mention, don't go to bed within 2 hours eating, preferably 4 so the food digests. Look forward to any and all comments and suggestions on topics we might cover. Remember to like and subscribe if you would. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. We do have ads and would appreciate you watching 10 seconds of those as well. A hedge due from Norway from my buddy Donovan. Enough respect, Jamaican. Das vidanya. Zdravstvuyte, Russian. Lahiro, Hebrew, Hafez, Farsi. Interesting. Yes, there are definitely accidents that are user errors. I agree with that, Albert. Albert, Gareth, I can see all of you that said hello. Thanks for doing so. We're done here on the battery, but we will be in touch. Ugh.